Hello, and welcome to another episode of Self Improvement for Women. I am your host, Hope Long, and today I have a special guest. Her name is Lynn Catalano. She is a multitude of things. She's an author, she's a speaker, attorney, and also a coach. And she really specializes in identifying toxic relationships. And how to work through them and working through them with her clients. And that's a touchy subject. So it's going to be a little bit of a heavy conversation today, but strap in and gear up. Glenn, I am so excited that you're here today.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me, Hope.
This is such a topic that needs to be addressed. I don't feel like there's a lot of mainstream help out there or information. I feel like it's still very much a hush hush kind of situation, which is very unfortunate. I know when we had talked previously, you had talked about your background and why, how you came into being this author and being an attorney and all these things because of your background with the narcissism. So I want you to dive into that and kind of give us an idea of what was going on and what you were going through.
Well, thank you. I don't know that anyone sets out to be a toxic relationship coach, but I think that there really aren't any coincidences, and you have to pay attention to where your path is going. So quite organically, I went to law school knowing I did not want to be a practicing attorney, but I did lead organizations for 20 plus years, not-for-profits, and I served as a professional fundraiser for those organizations, and that was very gratifying. But sometimes you get comfortable and you think there's a better opportunity out there. And what I learned was that toxic workplaces exist and what they are. And at the same time that I was experiencing that, my mother had passed away quite suddenly, and I'm an only child. And I discovered through a very painful journey that my father is a narcissist. And those things happening at the same time led me to do lots of research. I feel like that's what my background and my education call for, right? When you don't know how to solve a problem, you dive in and read everything about it and Google. And I now tell my clients that Googling your loved ones or whomever you're in a relationship with, if you Google their symptoms, that's a red flag. So little did I know that's what I was doing, but I learned so much, and I wrote constantly during that time. And it was a 10-year period of time. And I found the writing to be cathartic. Mm-hmm. And the more people I spoke to, the more I realized how abnormal his behavior was and how much I was suffering. And this is the stuff that we don't talk about enough. When you suffer emotional abuse from someone else, you don't know what to do with it. And a lot of times, we talk a lot about when a relationship is physically abusive, as we should. But the emotional abuse can be equally damaging and have long-term effects. And we're just now starting to recognize this. And I tell people all the time, please don't get isolated and know that this is not your fault and that you are not alone. And, it's amazing because that's how we feel when we're in it, because there's embarrassment and shame and guilt that's all wrapped into that. Like, this is my father who's saying and doing these awful things to me. And what do you do with that? And so, I wrote a book.
You turned it into a positive.
I made lemonade,
Yes.
But what I realized is that there are many people like me out there,
Mhm.
and that they need someone to talk to who is knowledgeable about narcissistic personality disorder. And not every therapist and not every coach is aware of the what goes into an NPD, what people do, the tactics they use, and how to peacefully coexist with them,
Yeah.
which I am very familiar with all those things.
Yes. And I have, like, I can speak to, the narcissism part. My son's father is a narcissist. Unfortunately, we had to go to court and do all kinds of things for, my son's safety and for mine. But I didn't know, like, the whole time, even as the relationship progressed and I was starting to see things like the signs. I was being isolated. I was, it eventually it did turn physical. But had it not gotten to that physicality point, I often sit back and wonder, would I still be in that situation? Because I don't think my eyes really opened until I got physically hurt, right? And I sit back and I wonder sometimes, man, because I still feel sometimes, oh, I was so naive. How could I have known, but it just is, because they're so masked, and it's when you're a trusting person, you're a loving person.
Right.
When you see people, you see them as trust and as love. And so unfortunately, even if they may be wearing a mask, you're not going to see that right away. And so yes, it is not your fault. And I still sit back sometimes and catch myself. I'm like, nope, that was not my circus. That's not my fault, right? And but yeah, I when it came to the physical, that's when I was like, oh, this has been going on for a while. Like, and it was just, shocked, and so your father, right? How crazy to grow up not seeing it, and not knowing that you were suffering, right? That whole time. And with the passing of your mother, I'm sorry. But what a way for your eyes to open, right? What is your relationship with like him now, like with him like now?
We are completely no contact. Um, it it's been an awful. It's been almost 12 years since she passed, and I must tell you, in that first year, I tried to wrap him up in our family. I am married. I have two children. They were very young at that point. And, I just wanted to embrace him and bring him in. And the things that he did and said, and I kept saying, oh, it's grief. I don't know what grief looks like. Grief manifests differently in everyone. Must be grief. And then, after a year, it's continuing and changing, and still bad. And he's still doing things that are off and just not right. And that's when I really started looking into it. But now I look back and I see that my mother wanted me to see him in a certain light and as a certain person, as if it was the person she believed he could be. And, she was the translator, the mediator, the communicator. I realized that he and I really didn't communicate directly. My whole life, we communicated through her. And, that must have been exhausting for her. But that was how she wanted it. And, she kept the peace. She made sure that everyone came to dinner and everything was okay, but nothing was ever resolved. Like, she glossed over everything. So without her there, everything is raw and, very emotional for me. And when you're dealing with a narcissist, they have very low emotional intelligence. So they don't have control of their emotions, and they don't care about your emotions. So that makes it very difficult. And if you've ever had an argument with a narcissist, you know that there is no resolution because it goes in a circle, and
And somehow ends up being your fault.
they turn the tables, they
Yeah.
make themselves the victim, right? They start talking like, it's called narcissistic word salad, which it's kind of like, I don't want to call it gibberish, but it kind of like they just throw irrelevant facts out there that mean nothing to what you're talking about. So they'll throw out there, remember that when 10 years ago you said this to me, and you're like, wait, what are we talking about? Or that person looked at me wrong, or when I did this, or how did you forget that I did this and I did that? And I, like, they start, like, my father will recite his resume in an argument with you, and he'll tell you how busy he is because he's doing all these things for all these organizations. And I'm like, what does that have to do with anything? And it just, like, it's to deflect and deny and lie. And you're so confused, and that's their intention.
Mhm.
So
They
the
can
whole,
confuse the situation, then it's diffused, right?
right,
To
because
them.
they embrace the chaos that they create.
Yeah.
And
Um,
all you want is, like, all I wanted was to have a father. All you want is to have a father for your child. But you don't get that.
no. No, and my son's father now has been out of our lives for about 5 years. So, and it's been very peaceful. Surprisingly, like, it hasn't been a terrible thing. And as women that may be sitting in the audience who are watching this, and they are like, well, I've always kind of thought, my boyfriend, my husband, my father, those people, I've always kind of thought that they were a narcissist, but I love them so much. I don't want to give up that relationship. One thing to think about is, what kind of relationship is it really? Like, down to the nitty gritty core. If there's not that communication, right? If there is always that circling argument, if there is always it ends up being your fault, whatever the situation may be, what kind of relationship really is that? Is it beneficial to your mental health, to
Right.
your overall well-being? Because your job, just as a human being, is to be happy. That is the only thing that you have to do on this earth, that you are called to do, is just be happy. And so finding the people that contribute to your happy, those are your people. And sometimes some people are put into our lives for a reason, for a season, all of those things. And so you have to really contemplate on this. And it is a hard thing to think about, and to consider, to let go of someone, because
Yeah.
you will grieve that relationship, bad as it may be, or, whatever. You're going to have grief over it. Because you're going to want to remember the good.
Right.
um, but yeah, and so for people that are watching, we touched on this, the red flags, right? And like, if they're googling some symptoms, so what do red flags look like, and how can we maneuver them when we are aware of them?
So I've broken it down to 10, which is a lot. I will tell you, my narcissist checks all 10. Some may not. Some may present with, 5 or more. Now, just know narcissistic personality disorder is defined in the DSM, which is the standard manual for all mental illness, and it is used by all healthcare practitioners to define. And they have certain behaviors that fall under this. And I completely agree. And again, my narcissist meets all of them. But these are red flags that you may see easier. These are things that you'll spot, that they do behaviors, traits, etc. So the first one is, narcissists across the board have a complete lack of empathy. They are unable to express it. It's actually quite shocking. If you speak to a narcissist, you'll realize this just through a couple of questions, about, I went through a time when my knee, we were on vacation and my knee was really bothering me. And when we got home, I went to the doctor. Turned out I had torn my meniscus, and I had surgery soon after. But while we were on vacation, my father said to me one day, "You talk about it all the time. Like, what do you expect me to say to you?" And I thought, a normal human being might say, "Can I get you an ice pack? Would you like some Advil?" I mean, like, I don't know. Like, do you want to sit down? I think that's what normal people say, right? So, empathy allows us to walk in someone else's shoes, to experience other people's emotions. And it's the main ingredient in emotional intelligence, is exhibiting empathy. So this just confirms that narcissists have very, very low, if any, emotional intelligence. Number 2, they need to have control of the situation, control of the room, control of the table, control of you, control of your finances, control of everything. If they're not in control, they are figuring out how to discount and demean the person in control so that they can gain that control.
Yeah, and I can speak to this. I had a job, my finances were separate, and yet my finances are the finances that we took bills out of. That we, if he was low, which he never was, he made significantly more than me. But if he was low, he would ask me, "Oh, I need you to cover this much. Can you run to the ATM and grab about 400?" And that was like my whole check at the time. I was working part-time, and I'd be like, "Yeah, I'll cover that bill, no problem." But I knew deep down, and looking now, that was just so that he knew where my money was in his pocket, right? Even though we maintained this idea that my finances were separate. We maintained this idea that I was in control of my money, but I wasn't.
Oof.
And so, yeah, that took a minute. I realized that long after the fact, when I was looking back at it, and I was like, oh.
Yeah, it does all make sense. Like, I find that when someone reads through all 10 of these or hears all 10 of these, it's like putting the pieces together. And listen, we don't want to see that the person that we love or that's related to us has this personality disorder. We look for the best in people. And I spent more than 10 years trying to make this relationship work. I didn't want to give up. I held out hope that he would wake up and realize he was missing out on his only child and his only grandchildren. And it never happened. So I think that's something, and I completely agree with you that you have to grieve the relationship. And you want it to work so badly. And maybe that's part of a female thing too, is that we'll just do anything to make it work.
Yep.
So
we're very good at that. We make all the things work, right?
Right.
We nurture everyone in our lives. We work around schedules. We work around dinners. We plan these events so that people can come together. We do all these things to promote connection. So when we're seeking connection, it means a lot to us, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So red flags, number 3, they lie all the time. This one's hard too, because you don't want to see this, but you realize that they lie to make themselves look better. They lie to make themselves seem more compassionate. They actually believe their own lies. They exist in a false reality. And so it's very difficult. They can't even remember who they told which lie to. So eventually you catch on and you see that they're not capable of telling the truth. Yeah. Number 4, they don't communicate well or sometimes at all. And again, this goes back to their emotions. They expect you to know what's going on and they get upset when you don't. They just don't share their feelings and their emotions well at all. Number 5, they don't like boundaries and they don't respect them.
I
when
know
they,
that one.
they want what they want and they want it when they want it.
Mhm.
And you need to accommodate their wants and desires and needs. And when you don't, then you will be punished.
Right. And speaking to that as well, they want what they want when they want it. And if you don't do what they want, you don't love them.
Right.
You don't care about them.
Right.
You are so selfish. You don't need this hour and a half for a yoga class. You need to be at home fixing the dining room table up. I can't believe you would do that. That's a whole thing, right? Yes,
And
that's a heavy
you're
one.
selfish for taking an exercise class or taking care of yourself when you should be thinking about them.
Mhm.
Very, very difficult.
That gives me chills because
I'm sorry.
I've been through that, and I'm like, ugh. And it
Yeah,
still bothers me a little bit. I'm not
of
gonna lie. I've
course.
held
Of
on to
course.
that. So now but now it has made me more aware of the boundaries I like to have for myself.
That's what it's like. The more educated you are about who these people are, the easier it is to avoid them.
Right.
So, number 6, and this one again across the board, they are never accountable for their actions and they will never sincerely apologize. That one's so hard. It's so hard. And I want to tell you, there were so many times that I just wanted him to say, I didn't mean to do that. I'm sorry I hurt you. It's never my intention to hurt you. You're my only child and I love you. Because that's what I would say to my children. But what did I get? I got a narcissist non-apology apology, which you might recognize, where they apologize for something else that happened, but not for hurting you. So he would say to me, I'm sorry I ever went to that event. I'm sorry I even talked to that person. How about hurting me?
Right.
That's how they cover that.
I know that
Yes.
one.
This one you alluded to in our introduction here. You said that they wear a mask, and you are dead on. Number 7 is narcissists are known to wear a mask in public and behave a certain way in public, and they behave a different way behind closed doors.
Yeah. And I found this, I didn't know this, right? But as I was brought into like some of the people that he was friends with. And like one of them was an older lady that he worked with. And then the other one was his brother. But neither one of these people really had much contact with him. Like they weren't consistently hanging out, they weren't talking all the time. But whenever I was in a situation where I was with him and these other people, we had the best relationship. We were so cute. We just did this. We just did that. We are so da 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 da. And more importantly, they were applauding him and like congratulating him and boosting his self-esteem and saying, "Oh, I'm so proud of you." All of these things for very like minimal stuff, right? Like nothing fantastic happened, right? Just minimal stuff, but they were so enamored with him. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like this, what is even going on right now? But they were like enamored, just falling all over him. He was God's gift to earth. And then behind closed doors, he would say nasty things about them. He would
Of
be like,
course.
yeah. And then he would be like, they're so full of it. They don't even know how great da 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 really is. Like they act like they know all about my investments and da 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 da, but they have no idea. And like just really silly stuff. And I'm just like, how did you create this relationship with these people? Because we don't have this kind of relationship. But that was because I knew him on a different level. There's like a surface level, right? And then there's like the I'm in the house with you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week level.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was like, wow, like the difference was insane. And
Well,
after the
oh,
relationship, I reached out to the mother figure that he was good with. And I was like, I have to know, like, what kind of relationship do you guys really have? because I went through X, Y, and Z, and I really need to talk to somebody who knows him. And she goes, oh, well, that doesn't sound like my Zachary. That, or sorry, shouldn't have said his name on here, but I did. That doesn't sound like the person I know. I know he had a rough childhood. So, and she made some excuses for his behavior.
Whew.
And then the following 2 weeks or so after that, she reached out to me and apologized. She was
Whew.
like, I had no idea it was that bad.
Oh,
Yeah. And I was like, okay.
whew.
So it was like this mask, this unveiling. I'm peeling back the layer. I'm like, okay.
Well, often I think publicly they're known as a nice, charismatic, wonderful guy, right? They're just this great person. And it's shocking to those types of people who know them on a very cursory level
Mm-hmm,
that they could be this monster in private.
mm-hmm.
But it's not shocking to anyone else, who knows them in private. Certainly not. And I think I'm still having those encounters because people, my father is very well known where we live, and here I wrote a book about my nightmare experience, and so I think that people are surprised.
Yeah. Yeah. But they spend a lot of time conducting this outer shell of a person
Yes,
that is so, and it that does boost their ego when they see these
yes.
people in person. Oh, I'm so glad that you're here. I can't wait for you to meet so and so. They're so bubbly, and like their personalities are like amazing. And then you get in the vehicle with them to leave, and
Yep,
right back to being like that nitty gritty, nitpicky,
yep,
very controlling person, right?
yep, yep. All the way around. Absolutely. Absolutely. Number 8, they use tactics, and you may be familiar with these tactics. They like to employ certain things that really narcissists are known to use. Other people might use some of these things, but nobody uses them like a narcissist. So they like to triangulate people, where they will pick 2 or more people and they pit you against one another so that they can come in and be the savior or the martyr. They like to use gaslighting, where they change the reality of what occurred and tell you, you must not remember correctly, because that certainly did not happen. And it certainly did not happen that way. You must have had too much to drink. You must have spoken to the wrong person. You must have not seen what actually went on, when in fact, you were correct in your retelling of the facts. And the last one that they do, that to me is the most cruel and unusual punishment, is that they use the silent treatment. And they don't just use it for a few hours. They're not angry about something and they need to collect themselves and come back to you. No, this is for days, weeks, months, years. My father did not speak to me. And it is soul crushing. And the idea that there is no opportunity for any kind of resolution because the person will not acknowledge your existence. That's the most damaging. And I really do think that if you suffer repeated silent treatment, gaslighting, triangulation from someone, you definitely have some form of PTSD after going through that for so long. Makes you doubt yourself,
Yeah.
and it's extraordinarily hurtful.
Speaking to the silent treatment, we went through the court process because we have a kid together, right? We went
Right.
through all this court stuff, all this huge court battle, and it drug on for like a year and a half. And it was so simple. It didn't need to drag on, but every court appearance was put me down, put me and my family down, da, 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 da. Nothing ever would get resolved because he spent the whole time just talking crap, right? But if finally, court is over and I ended up with, full custody, and he got visitation. And when I realized it was the very first, we were supposed to meet up at the police station so he could have a supervised visit with our son, and he never showed up. And he didn't show up the next time, or the time after that, or the time after that. So after the fourth time of driving 2.5 hours, because I had to move very far away from him, after driving 2.5 hours 4 times in a row for him not to show up, no call, no text, no nothing, I was like, oh, so that's how it's going to be. And then I realized how much it hurt me for my son.
Right.
And then I was carrying both of that because he's too little at that point to
Right.
know. And so I was carrying both of those hurts, and I was like, oh my gosh. And it brings up a lot of emotion in me, because how could you do that to a baby?
Right.
And like, yeah, he's not a perfect person. Yeah, he's a narcissist, but you're still a father.
Yeah.
And you still have a job to do, right? You still have opportunity to make something good out of something bad. And it didn't matter. He was mad at me for winning, and that's all that he cared about, was that I won and he lost, and he's not going to let that go. And it's been 5 years. And so, but there's a silver lining in this. When they do this silent treatment to you for years, it's an awareness to yourself for a whole new level, right? On what you deserve, on who you deserve in your life, and on sometimes the benefits of being alone are far greater than the benefits of being with somebody like that, right? And so again, like I said, I've got a lot of peace in my life now, and so does my son, and he doesn't know, he's none the wiser. But yeah, it shocked me that he didn't care about a baby. Like, that's how crazy, like, and I shouldn't say crazy, but narcissists literally have no empathy. They don't care about the baby. And that blew my mind when all that happened. So I can speak to that.
Wow. Yeah, I know. And I've coached an awful lot of moms who don't understand why the narcissist doesn't want anything to do with his children.
I don't think I will ever fully understand it, but I am not meant to, I guess. And I'm just now at a point where I'm really letting it go.
Yeah.
And that just looks like being present for my son. Letting it go looks like just being present. And
hopefully practicing self-care and taking care of yourself.
Yes. And right? I have boundaries now, right?
Yes.
And all these things that I didn't have. So
it's
there
really
is silver lining.
There are positives that come out of it.
Yeah. And you learn so much. You learn so very much emotionally.
I think the best benefit of the silent treatment is that they teach you how to live without them.
Yes.
And listen, my heart was broken, like this is my parent, the one who's supposed to love me the most, right? And how do you explain to your children when their grandparent doesn't want anything to do with them? And that's a rough road. And the other thing that I realized, and I know I have 2 more red flags, so I do have to come back to this, but I just want to tell you, I think about this a lot. I went back to him over and over and over again during this time because I wanted to make it work, because I didn't want to walk out on this relationship. And every time I went back to him, my kids and my husband had to pretend that nothing happened with him, because there's no discussion. It's not like he's going to come in and say, listen, I'm so sorry I hurt all of you. I'm so sorry that this happened. It won't happen again. Let's just go from here. No, he just walked in and today playing the role of grandfather was him. Dun, da, da, da. And he'd just walk in and want to say, hey, how's school? How's this? Like, as if nothing happened. And to me, I still carry guilt for having made my kids and my husband go through that over and over again.
But at the time, it's likely that you were thinking, oh, the reason he's not saying anything is because he's carrying around guilt and shame. That is the logical reason somebody doesn't want to talk about something.
Right.
However, as a narcissist, that doesn't actually even exist at all.
Nope. Nope.
So you
Nope.
can go back and you can make that excuse for them, but after the third or fourth time,
Yeah.
it's kind of like, oh, okay.
Yeah. 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 I mean, now we're at a point, my daughters are young women. They feel like they don't have a grandfather, like he doesn't exist to them,
Yeah.
which is terribly sad, but terribly self-aware, and they acknowledge that this has occurred and they're stronger for it. So those are good things.
Life has a funny way of making us strong.
Yes. Yes, whether we want to be or not.
Right.
Yes. Yes. So number 9, they need to be praised, revered, admired, recognized all the time, right? And see what you were talking about with your ex-husband, with his colleagues, how they loved everything that he did. That feeds them. It's called narcissistic supply, and they need it like oxygen. And when they don't get it, they move on to a new supply. And when they don't get it, sometimes they go into a narcissistic rage and they blame everybody, especially you. And so they need that all the time. And number 10 was perhaps the most difficult one for me to realize. And when I realized it, I thought, this can't be. This is my father. They don't know you at all, because the relationship always resides in the shallow end of the pool.
Yeah.
They never ask you open-ended questions. I was like, I'm an adult, and my father only asks me chocolate or vanilla. He doesn't ask me, what's your fondest hopes and dreams? Why would you ever want to go there or do that? Why don't you like red pepper? Like there's no question like that. It's only yes or no.
Yes. Yeah. And I could speak to that too. Looking back, I was trying to think of all the meaningful time we had together, all those meaningful conversations. And when I was out of it, I would look back and I'm thinking, did we ever have one meaningful conversation?
Oof.
I think what happened, and I try to wrap my brain around this. I got wrapped into the being love bombed. That was how the beginning of the relationship started. I was love bombed. He was so kind. He was so sweet. He admired me. He, bought me flowers for no reason. He always was, telling me all these really nice things. And we would hang out and we would do something like watch a movie or something like that. But every time we hung out, it was all about him and not about us or me. And looking back, I'm like, oh, so every time I had something important I wanted to say, I didn't say it, or I started to say it, and then the conversation would somehow change because I couldn't remember any specific conversation where I actually got one of my points across. Something I was passionate about, I wanted to speak on, something that I wanted to do with my life, or where I saw myself in 10 years. The key questions that you ask when you're in a relationship: where do you want to see yourself in 10 years? What do you want to do with your career? When do you think you're going to retire? What do you want to do when you retire? Where do you want to go on vacation? Where's your dream destiny? Like all of those things
Right.
never got answered because I never got a chance to ask, because it became about his dreams and his destinies and his dream, like all that stuff. I'm like, like I just was like, oh my God.
Yep. Absolutely.
And that does hurt, not having, not being in a relationship where you feel seen, you
Right.
feel heard.
Right.
Like that sucks.
Yes. Yes.
Looks bad.
And no one deserves that.
No, that's not how a relationship works. A good relationship.
No, not at all.
For my ladies that are sitting here right now going, oh my God, and they're like going down the 10 things and they're like, like it's probably a little bit overwhelming, but I will tell you this, don't freak out. Okay. It's going to be okay. So now you've been informed what those red flags look like, and now you can apply those in your life and see kind of what's going on. And if you're really at a point where you're like, okay, I need to move on, What do we do when we are financially stuck? Because
Yeah.
that is always a huge problem I find when I talk to women who have been in abusive relationships. They're
Yeah.
like, well, I depend on him. I don't have any money of my own. I, don't even have a vehicle. I don't have this. I don't have that. Which ties into the isolation. I ended up not having a vehicle, not having a job, not
Oh,
having any friends, any family that lived near us.
ay, ay, ay.
Yes. So, what do we do when we're stuck in this situation financially?
So there are resources out there. And even though you are not being physically abused, you are still in an abusive relationship. And I think that needs to be made very clear, that you can still seek help from domestic violence shelters. And there's a domestic violence hotline that I'm happy to give you right now. And it's 1-800-799-7233. And they can help you find a shelter near you. There are state and federal monies available, and people in those shelters can help you find those things. They can help you get a job. They can help you establish a bank account and credit. A lot of times women in these situations have no credit history because nothing is in their name. They can help you find legal representation. And I'm actually on the board of directors of a nonprofit in my area, which is Western New York, near Buffalo, New York. And it's called the Center for Hope. And it is all about hope, help, and healing from narcissistic abuse. When I discovered that there was such a thing near me, I mean, I couldn't believe how progressive this is. And they're built on 4 platforms. So they're a charity, they're not for profit, but they're very young. And the 4 pillars of this organization are legal help and legal representation, financial advice and financial guidance for people, mental health support and therapy, and holistic health. So it helps with Reiki and other forms of self-care.
Mhm.
So important. Right now, there's they keep it very, very low priced for their providers because they know people come in and they don't have a lot. Our goal certainly is to have that subsidized through charitable donations and grants so that we can provide that for people who don't have anything to seek help.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you for that.
Yes.
Um,
Oh, can I give you the Center for Hope's website?
yes.
Okay, so that's www.centerforhopewny.org. And they actually have a great assessment there for you to take. They have a glossary of terms, and perhaps it's a good place to start.
Yes. And I've got that, you guys. I'm going to put that right here at the bottom for you. So that you guys know and you can reach out. You can also reach out to Lynn. You guys should get her book. It is called Wrecking Ball Relationships. All right. So she does have a book. Where is the book available?
Amazon.com and barnesandnoble.com.
Fabulous. So read her book, reach out to her. She knows, she's a wealth of knowledge between attorney and life experience and coach and author, whatever your question may be, and if you're sitting there like, I need somebody to talk to, you can talk to her, right?
Yes.
And you can talk to me as well. You can send a message. My DMs are always open. You guys know where to find me. Lynn, her links are all here at the bottom. Thank you so much for coming and being on this show and giving such a powerful message.
Thank you, Hope. Thank
Much
you.
needed, much needed, much needed. I love it. I love it. Thank you again. And you guys, we will see you on the next one.